update, and we haven't really had a lot to update. But I do want to get into some details because we've been having CBA calls, which is like our player representation in the league. Yep.
And you're directly a part of these, or you get like Spark Notes?
No, you are directly a part of these. Okay. So you have like so many different executive boards, and like our exec meets, there's like player reps, there's CBA reps.
What if I told you the fastest way to collapse $1 billion sports league isn't bad ratings, bad marketing, or even bad ownership? It's when the players start believing they're the ones running the entire business. And right now, that's exactly the storm brewing inside the WNBA. We're talking about a situation that could become the most spectacular financial self-destruction modern sports has ever seen. The shocking part: the very players pulling the trigger might be the ones who lose the most when the dust settles. Today we're breaking down the staggering financial gamble surrounding Sophie Cunningham, the psychological chess match billionaire owners are quietly playing behind the scenes, and why the entire Open the Books narrative might be built on a dangerous misunderstanding of the Caitlin Clark era. And here's what makes this story even crazier. Sophie Cunningham isn't some radical union boss stirring the pot from the sidelines. She's a respected veteran role player for the Indiana Fever, literally sharing the floor with Caitlin Clark during the biggest economic explosion women's basketball has ever seen. She sees the sold-out arenas, the massive corporate sponsors, and that jaw-dropping $2.2 billion TV deal. She knows exactly where the money is flowing. But instead of riding that momentum, she jumped on a public podcast, grabbed the microphone, and tried to outline the union's negotiation strategy. And what happened next might be one of the biggest strategic mistakes we've seen in sports business. Listen closely to what Sophie Cunningham says about the latest proposal from the billionaire owners. Check this out.
At like 10 p.m. And they came back and nothing happened with the revenue share. And that is the whole thing what we're fighting for. And they go and they change our salary cap.
That clip right there, yeah, you can already feel the tension building. But now let's talk about the numbers that made the entire situation explode. According to Sophie Cunningham, the league came back to the table and absolutely nothing changed on the revenue share. The only adjustment: the salary cap moved by about 0.5%. Roughly a $50,000 to $100,000 bump. Now hold up. Pause the tape for a second. Because that's not a negotiation. That's a calculated message. When billionaire owners respond to a massive multimillion-dollar demand with what is basically pocket change, they're not trying to meet you halfway. They're signaling something much bigger. In the world of high-stakes corporate leverage, that kind of microscopic counteroffer means one thing: the vault is closed. The owners are essentially saying, we heard you, but we're not giving up another inch. And here's where things start getting really dangerous for the players. Instead of recognizing that the owners may already be preparing for a lockout scenario, Sophie Cunningham sounds more irritated than alarmed. Like this is just a minor bump in the road instead of a full-blown strategic checkmate. The owners have drawn a line in the sand, and it's carved in concrete. But the real battlefield of this entire dispute isn't the salary cap. It's the revenue split. The union is pushing hard for a massive 50-50th share of league revenue, basically trying to mirror the same structure the NBA players have. They want the big league money, the same economic model, the same power structure. The problem: the financial physics of the WNBA might not support that reality yet. And when you hear the tone of this next conversation, the confidence, the expectation, it raises a huge question about whether the players truly understand the marketplace value they're negotiating with. Listen carefully to what gets said next. This part is wild.
That's more ticket sales, that's more games, that's more people spending money.
Yeah.
And so in our negotiation now, if we signed it, we will never see more than, not even close to 16% of revenue share. And that's...
Man, the thing is, bro.
That clip right there, boom. That's the number that has the entire union on edge, 16%. Sophie Cunningham basically admitted that if the players sign the current framework, they might never see more than 16% of the league's total revenue. And on the surface, yeah, to the average fan that sounds crazy low. 16% feels like crumbs. But in the ruthless world of sports economics and private equity, 16% of what's happening right now in the Caitlin Clark economy is still a massive, life-changing pile of money. And this is where the reality check starts hitting hard. Because you simply cannot demand NBA-level revenue splits when the infrastructure isn't even operating on the same planet as the NBA. The NBA runs an 82-game season inside 20,000-seat arenas packed with luxury suites, corporate leases, and billion-dollar sponsorship ecosystems. The WNBA plays 40 games, often in arenas that seat 5,000 fans or less. The volume of ticket sales, premium seating, and localized sponsorship revenue just isn't mathematically comparable yet. But here's the part nobody in mainstream sports media wants to say out loud. The veteran core of the league is demanding a massive slice of a pie they didn't actually bake. Because when you look at the cold, emotionless corporate spreadsheets, the massive surge in WNBA revenue over the last year didn't come from the veteran establishment. It didn't come from Sophie Cunningham. It didn't come from Breanna Stewart. The explosion came from one name, Caitlin Clark. Television networks didn't hand the league billions because of the old guard. They paid for number 22. Period. End of story. So when veteran role players start demanding 50% of total league revenue, what the owners and networks see isn't a fair labor request. They see an attempt to tax the Caitlin Clark stimulus package. They see players trying to claim ownership of an economic engine they had zero role in building. The billionaire owners understand it, the TV executives understand it, and honestly, the fans are starting to understand it too. And that leads directly to what might be the most catastrophic PR mistake the league has ever seen. Because the players are trying to win this labor battle by appealing to public sympathy, the working-class fan base. But the messaging coming out of these interviews is so out of touch, so soaked in entitlement, that it's actually pushing fans to the opposite side. And when you hear the next quote Sophie Cunningham delivers, you'll understand exactly why the internet exploded over it. Watch this.
That's what I'm saying. So like, as of right now, maybe it's going to get delayed. At the end of the day, we just want to get treated like professional athletes. Mm-hmm. And I think we've made a lot of great, just like our travel is better. Where we stay is better. Like we have made a lot of...
All right, that clip right there, you heard it yourself. Sophie Cunningham says, at the end of the day, we just want to be treated like professional athletes. Our travel is better, the places we stay are better. And hold on, pause it right there, because this is where the entire conversation takes a wild turn. Let's run a quick reality check. When you look at the actual deal on the table, these players are already being treated like professional athletes. We're talking minimum six-figure salaries, heavily subsidized housing in major cities, exclusive charter flights instead of commercial travel, and luxury five-star hotel accommodations on the road. On top of that, they're earning hundreds of thousands of dollars to hoop for roughly 5 months out of the year. Meanwhile, the average fan watching these podcasts is grinding 50 weeks a year in offices, hospitals, construction sites, and factories for a fraction of that income. Paying their own rent, buying their own plane tickets, covering every bill out of pocket. So when a pro athlete publicly admits they're flying private and staying in luxury hotels, and then turns around and says they're being disrespected by billionaire owners, something snaps in the public perception. The fans don't hear oppressed workers. What they hear is millionaire athletes complaining that the lifestyle perks aren't luxurious enough. And that right there is a brutal PR miscalculation. The players expected the fan base to rally behind them in this labor battle. Instead, a huge portion of the audience is basically yelling, "Sign the contract and get back on the court." But here's where things reach the absolute breaking point. When a union starts losing leverage in a negotiation, there's a classic pattern you see in business wars like this. The demands suddenly become bigger, louder, and sometimes mathematically impossible. It's a last-ditch attempt to regain control of a narrative that's slipping away. And according to insiders, that exact moment happens at the end of this discussion. Because the next demand the players float out there, that's the one that reportedly had billionaire owners laughing inside their luxury suites. Take a listen to this. This is where it gets crazy.
We haven't seen the books. They're talking about expenses and how expenses are so... It's like, show us. Mm-hmm. Like, show us. And like, well, you just have to trust us. There's no way we're trusting you guys. Like, there's no way. Just show us if you're... I don't know.
All right, that last clip. Yeah, that's the moment everything completely blows up. Because Sophie Cunningham drops the line that changes the entire tone of the negotiation. She says the players haven't seen the books, the owners keep talking about expenses, and the union basically wants the billionaires to open their financial records and prove where the money is going. And the second that demand hits the table, the entire negotiation basically hits checkmate. Because once a union starts demanding access to the private financial ledgers of a billionaire ownership group, you're no longer negotiating, you're declaring war. This isn't some small community business. The WNBA ownership groups include some of the most powerful financial players in sports and corporate America. These are people with entire armies of accountants, legal teams, and financial strategists managing every dollar on the books. Billionaires operate with complex depreciation models, tax strategies, and the famous Hollywood accounting systems that make profits appear exactly how they want them to appear on paper. And in that world, employees, no matter how talented or famous, simply don't get access to the private vault. A tech CEO doesn't hand over the company's financial records to the software engineers. A retail billionaire doesn't show the store cashiers their tax returns. And WNBA owners were never, under any circumstances, going to open their proprietary books just because the players asked. So from the owner's perspective, the message is brutally simple. They're saying, here's the offer, massive salary increases, guaranteed housing support, charter flights, and a fixed revenue share around 16%. Take the deal, or the doors close. No explanations, no financial transparency lectures, no auditing the billionaires. And that's where the real problem inside the Players Association becomes obvious. The union is completely united in outrage, but dangerously disconnected from the leverage they actually have. They're threatening a season-ending lockout over a battle that the owners believe is mathematically unwinnable for the players. If this thing actually escalates and a lockout hits, the biggest victim might be the very momentum that just exploded around the league. Casual fans who only recently tuned in could disappear overnight. Television ratings could crash, and the billionaire owners would simply absorb the losses while waiting for players to run out of money. The old guard believed they could push their way to a 50-50 revenue split. They thought media pressure and public sympathy would force the vault open. But now the bluff has been called, agents are scrambling, the fan base is split, and the mid-tier players might be pushing the entire league toward the edge of a financial cliff. Right now the WNBA is standing on a knife's edge, and the billionaires are holding every single card on the table. So now I want to hear your take. Do you think Sophie Cunningham and the veteran players are completely overplaying their hand by demanding a 50-50th revenue split in the middle of the Caitlin Clark boom? Do you think talking about respect and housing while flying on charter jets turned this into a massive PR disaster? And the big question, do you think the owners will actually lock the league out if the union keeps pushing to see the financial books? Drop your most brutal, honest analysis in the comments below. And if you want real breakdowns of the business, the leverage, and the cutthroat politics behind professional sports, make sure you subscribe to WNBA Vibe, smash that like button, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next deep dive. Because around here, we don't follow the headlines. We expose the game behind the game. I'll see you in the next one. Fire.